The quickest way to make a player obsessed with you is to make them believe they're in control. Let them believe they're seducing you. Let them believe you're the one fighting. And while they're busy playing checkers, you're playing war. Because that's the truth. Players aren't smart. They're predictable. They use the same tactics with everyone. They disappear, they return, they praise, they withdraw, they confuse, they reward. It's not a matter of charisma, it's a matter of psychology. You'll discover the illusion of control behind which every player hides. How psychology, not love, fuels their addiction. The silent moves that shatter their ego. The Machiavellian exit that leaves them helpless. It's not about romance. It's about strength, perception, and discipline. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the game, but in quitting. Welcome to the Machiavellian blog, where dark psychology meets timeless strategy. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps this channel grow and encourages more minds to explore the art of power and strategy. Let's start with the first rule. 1. The illusion of control. A player survives on one illusion. I'm in control. He tells himself this lie every time he enters someone's life, and every time he leaves without explanation. He disappears, reappears, offers compliments, then withdraws them. He confuses, then rewards, and he repeats the cycle again and again. To the untrained eye, it seems clever. It feels like manipulation born of intelligence. But the truth is far less impressive. It's not intelligence at all. It's psychology. More specifically, it's intermittent reinforcement. The same system that keeps people addicted to slot machines is the same one the player relies on. The casino doesn't hand out winnings every time. It gives you just enough, just rarely enough, to keep you chasing. The uncertainty becomes the hook, and the player imitates that design, keeping others hooked not with love, not with consistency, but with unpredictability. This is why his presence feels so powerful. You're not reacting to him, you're reacting to the guessing game. When will he show up? When will he disappear? When will the next compliment or act of kindness come? You don't realize that you're not in a relationship with a person. You're in a relationship with a pattern, and the pattern is dangerous. The unpredictability spikes dopamine stronger than steady affection ever could. What would normally feel like anxiety begins to feel like desire. What should be a warning becomes mistaken for passion. But here is the hidden weakness. The very system the player uses to keep others unbalanced is the system he cannot survive himself. He cannot stand silence when it comes from you. He cannot handle distance if you choose it. His confidence is not as solid as it looks. It's an illusion built on constant control. Remove the control, and the illusion collapses. The lesson is simple, but it requires strength to accept. You don't beat a player by playing harder. You beat him by walking away. The casino only wins when you keep gambling. Step away, and suddenly, the game ends. Not because he stopped playing, but because you stopped giving him the power to matter. 2. The Machiavelli lesson. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men are driven by two things, fear and gain." And when you apply this to the player, the entire game becomes clear. A player lives off gain, your attention, your affection, your time. He thrives when you chase, when you try to secure his love, when you fight for his validation. That gain keeps him fed. But fear, that's what keeps him loyal. And here's the twist. You don't create that fear through arguments, begging, or confrontation. You create it through silence, uncertainty, and self-control. Give him glimpses of your heart. Let him believe, even for a moment, that he's winning you. Allow him to taste what it feels like to matter. But never confirm that he has you. Never surrender the full truth. Because once he feels he has secured you completely, the game shifts, and you become the one trapped in his cycle. So you invert the strategy. You don't outlove a player. You out-control him. You mirror his own tactics, not through cruelty, but through discipline. You reward sparingly. You withdraw when expected to chase. You remain unpredictable, not in desperation, but in strength. This is where the Stoic principle of mastery comes in. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. When you refuse to be reactive, when you stop giving away your emotions at every move, you break his system. He relies on your response to fuel his illusion. Without it, his control starves. And here's the irony. The player, who once thought he was the master of the game, becomes the one playing against himself. His need for control transforms into fear of losing you. His addiction to winning your attention becomes the very chain that binds him. The lesson is simple. The player doesn't fear love. He doesn't even fear rejection. What he fears is indifference, because indifference is the one thing he cannot manipulate. And when you master that, when you no longer need him to validate your worth, then you don't just outplay the player. You end the game entirely. 3. Reversing the game. The only way to beat a player is not to play harder, but to reverse the game itself, and that begins with control. Step 1. Control the frame. The player thrives when you ask questions like, "Where is this going?" or "What do you want from me?" Every question hands him the power of direction. Instead, you take it back through silence. You never beg for clarity. You never press for definition. Your silence becomes louder than his confusion. The less you demand, the more he wonders. Step 2. Flip the reinforcement. The player's system only works if you reward inconsistency, so you break the pattern. When he makes effort, you reward it with presence, your attention, your energy, your calm certainty. But when he vanishes, you don't chase, you don't punish, you go emotionally blank. No arguments, no accusations, just absence. And soon, he's the one pressing the lever, desperate for the next spark of your attention. Step 3. Controlled vulnerability. Players know how to exploit weakness, but they collapse when faced with mystery. So you reveal just enough to make them feel chosen, but never enough to satisfy the craving. Then you pivot. You change the subject, shift the tone, retreat into composure. This triggers what psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect, unfinished business that loops endlessly in the mind. You become the thought he cannot close, the sentence he cannot finish. Step 4. Scarcity. Nothing starves a player's control more than realizing your life is already full. You are not waiting by the phone. You are not refreshing the screen. You are building, moving, becoming. He is not your world. He is a fragment within it. And when your life radiates abundance, your absence weighs heavier than your presence. You transform into the storm he cannot predict, the horizon he cannot capture. This is the paradox of power. The less you need their validation, the more they crave yours. By reversing the game, you remind the player of something he cannot face, that the control he thought was his never truly belonged to him. It belonged to you all along. 4. The fall. At first, they will act unbothered. The mask stays firm. They'll shrug, they'll laugh, they'll insist that nothing you do can touch them. They'll project an image of control, as if they're still the ones holding the strings. But this is only the surface. If you watch closely, you'll notice the shift. The silence starts to work on them. The absence begins to echo louder than words ever could. And soon, almost without realizing it, they change. Suddenly, the one who used to vanish is the one initiating. The one who thrived on withholding affection now begins to test yours. They probe for reassurance, small questions that betray their anxiety. Do you miss me? What are we? Where do you see this going? And then comes the biggest tell. They start talking about the future. The very same person who once refused to commit, who made you feel foolish for asking where things were headed, now clings to the idea of permanence. They dangle promises, not because they've changed, but because fear has replaced control. That is the moment you've won, not because you broke them, but because you never allowed them to break you. You didn't fight for their love. You didn't beg for clarity. You didn't try to outplay their game. Instead, you chose silence, self-control, and restraint. And that discipline flipped the entire dynamic. And now comes the final step. You walk. Not with shouting. Not with dramatic closure. Not with speeches that explain your worth. You walk with silence. With precision. With timing so sharp it leaves no room for arguments. Because the real punishment isn't rejection. It isn't even the pain of losing you. The deepest punishment, the one they cannot recover from, is the realization that they never truly had you. Every compliment, every cycle of reward and withdrawal, every attempt at control collapses into dust when faced with the truth. Their illusion was never real. You were never theirs to begin with. And that truth will haunt them long after your silence has faded. 5. The obsession. Why does this work? Why does the player, who once seemed untouchable, untamed, unshaken, suddenly spiral when the silence turns against him? The answer is simple: psychology. The first principle is loss aversion. Human beings feel the pain of losing something far more intensely than the pleasure of gaining it. For the player, gaining your attention felt good. It fed his ego. It entertained his boredom. It fueled his illusion of power. But losing it? Losing the sense that he could pull your strings whenever he wanted? That pain cuts deeper than any gain he ever enjoyed. The silence doesn't just sting, it devastates. The second principle is the dopamine crash. The player fed on your reactions. Every message, every expression of doubt, every attempt to secure his love was a hit of dopamine to his brain. Intermittent reinforcement made the cycle addictive. But when the cycle breaks, when you stop reacting, stop chasing, stop playing, the supply is cut off. And like any addict without a fix, his mind begins to spiral. The highs are gone, replaced with emptiness. The silence becomes withdrawal. Then comes the most destructive principle of all, the ego fracture. The player's identity was built on control, on the belief that he could bend others at will. But when faced with your indifference, when he realizes his tricks no longer work, the illusion shatters. His ego cracks. The thought that he wasn't in control, that perhaps he never was, is unbearable. And so obsession begins, not born of love, not born of affection, but born of desperation to restore the illusion. This isn't romance. This isn't passion. It's biochemical warfare. Chemicals firing in the brain, psychology tearing down the mask of confidence, silence becoming a weapon sharper than words. And here is the final truth. The obsession that follows isn't about you. It's about him. It's about his need to fix the wound your silence created, to reclaim the power he thought he had. But once you understand this, you see it clearly. His downfall was never caused by you. It was caused by the illusion he built for himself. And the moment you stopped playing, the illusion crumbled. 6. The Machiavellian exit. Machiavelli once said, "The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world is composed of the vulgar." He understood a truth most people never face. Perception shapes reality. Appearances rule over substance. And this is where the final lesson lies. The player thrives on appearances, on the performance of control, on convincing both you and himself that he is the one pulling the strings. So let him believe it. Let him believe he won. Let him believe he had you wrapped in his cycle. Because the appearance of victory is often more important to the vain than the truth beneath it. And then, without warning, without explanation, you exit. No long speeches, no dramatic goodbyes, no closure wrapped in kindness. You leave with silence, precision, timing so sharp it cuts deeper than words ever could. Because when the curtain falls, the performance ends. And that is what truly destroys the player. It's not just losing you. It's losing the stage, losing the performance that made him feel powerful. The silence doesn't only strip him of your presence, it strips him of his audience. Here's the paradox. He wanted control, but control was always an illusion. He wanted power, but power was always borrowed from your reactions. When you leave quietly, you expose this truth. You reveal that he never held the strings. You simply stopped playing along. This is the Machiavellian exit. To depart not in anger, not in chaos, but in calm, deliberate silence. To let the world think he won, while you walk away free. Because your victory does not need to be seen. It only needs to be real. And in that silence, the player is left with nothing but himself. No stage, no game, no audience. Just the echo of control he thought he had, and the haunting realization that it was never his to begin with. Remember, Machiavelli taught us that power isn't about who plays the loudest game, but who controls themselves when others are blinded by desire. When you can make even a player fall, yet choose to walk away, you prove the highest form of power, freedom. This is not revenge. This is not cruelty. This is strategy. And in the world of power, strategy always wins. This was Machiavelli's code. If you're ready to master the game instead of being played, then like, subscribe, and step deeper into the art of power.